Let's do it.
All right, welcome everybody. Today's podcast is going video. It's first video of the Retro Sports Hub podcast. Sean Larkin here, hosting, and got my first guest, coworker actually. Fred is with us today. How's it going, Fred?
It's going great. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be a part of the Retro Sports Hub.
Yeah, absolutely. Glad to have you. I know you're a big sports guy, so we were batting it back and forth in a work conversation, and it's like, yeah, I haven't done a video yet, so it's all been audio stuff through Podbean, and then so I'm excited today. And the topic today is one that is actually pretty annoying for me. Fantasy football is. I've played fantasy football for gosh, I stopped. I retired from it about 3 years ago, but I've probably played 15 seasons of it, I guess,
Wow.
over the years. But anyway, with some degree of success. But what about you, Fred?
I've been playing fantasy football for as long as I can remember. I remember I started in like a church league, like our church would put it together, and I just fell in love. Fell in love with it. I think the cool thing about it is it made me watch more than just my team because I was basically just like Pittsburgh, 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 and now I'm like, oh wait, I have this guy, I have Alvin Kamara, I have to watch a Saints game. You know what I mean? So it really grew my interest in other, watching more than just my team, which I thought was cool. But it also made it hard because let's say Alvin Kamara is playing, the Saints are playing the Steelers. I'm like, do I want a fantasy football championship or do I want a Super Bowl? So it's a give and take there, but I love it. I think it's fun. And now you throw some money in the pot and with your friends, so it can be interesting for sure.
Yeah. Now, your current league. We'll talk about your current league. Are you still running it for your church? Or are you doing it? Have you kind of veered from there?
I'm not. I think we made it 8 years, and then it just kind of fizzled out. So right now I'm in three leagues, and I just all three are ran by somebody else. Being a fantasy football commissioner, that's a full-time job right there.
Yeah, it is. I am not. My current league is I'm in one, and
Okay.
it's run through the ESPN thing, which is fine. I mean, I've done Yahoo, I've done NFL, I've done all of them over the years, I think. And
Right.
my son is actually the commissioner of this one, and he's actually the one that dragged me back into this because he said, "Hey, let's do a family fantasy league." And I'm
Yeah.
like,
See, those
"That's
are fun.
great."
Those are fun.
So you have my son, my 28-year-old son, myself, my wife is in it. Pretty much everybody, my daughter, her husband, Pierce's wife, my son, Zach, that's in the military, which he could really care less. I mean, he's in it just because, family thing. And
Right.
then we have Pierce's best friend from like kindergarten, Andrew, is in it. And
Wow.
I'm pretty sarcastic, but Andrew's like on a different tier of sarcasm. It's pretty
Mhm.
funny. I've known him since he was like 6, so
All right.
it's pretty funny. And
That's
uh,
fun.
so that's the league that I'm in now, and it's fun. I mean, I told Pierce like, yeah, I'll do it since it's a family thing, but I had just gotten so frustrated, and we'll dive into a little bit of that as to why it's kind of a frustration for me,
Right.
but. Anyway, so 3 leagues. So are those family leagues or friends or just
So,
randos?
so two of them are friends, and then one I'm actually in a family league with another family. So they're the Coomers, and they all have a big family, and they just added me on. I'm a friend. They were like, we need an extra, and I was like, I'll play. So I've been in that one now for I think it's my fifth year running. So
Oh wow. Any
can't
of
stay
them have
away.
like a fun prize or anything like that?
So they do a trophy, and they're the ones like they post on Facebook. They do like the draft order, the Smack Talk videos. And the worst part is I've came I think runner up 2 years in a row. So it's been great.
You know what? I think that's absolutely the worst spot to be in.
Hmm.
I we'll talk about that in a little bit.
Yeah,
You know,
frustrating for sure.
that's one of the reasons I just stopped. I'm like, this is just craziness. So let's jump into draft strategy. So,
Yes.
what is your how do you go about getting ready for it? And what are your go tos for drafting?
Um, I don't do as much research search as I used to do, but I'll dabble in it. Draft positions, I think average draft position. You'll probably hear me say ADP a lot this podcast. Average draft position. I'm running back first. Obviously, receivers. It depends on what league you're in. A lot of PPR, point per reception. I'm in one of those, and a lot of it's half point PPR. But for me, it's running backs. Obviously, running backs carry a lot of points just because in today's game, a lot of running backs are receivers. So, guys like Christian McCaffrey are, running the ball 20 times a game and also getting 10 targets, so a lot of points going around. And obviously there's 32 starters at running back compared to you can go 3 wide receivers deep, for each team. So running backs, few and far between. Draft running backs early, get a quarterback late, receivers in between. That's my personal strategy. I'm the guy who's drafting, back in the day, Philip Rivers in the 14th round, see what he can get some points on the board. So that's where I'm at. And unless Lamar is there, a guy like Lamar, a Jalen Hurts, a guy who's going to use their legs also. But if those guys go early, a Patrick Mahomes, just because it's Patrick Mahomes, give me a mid-tier quarterback, a Kirk Cousins, something like that down the line.
Yeah, that's good strategy. I think that I have a similar strategy. And it depends on. Gosh, you almost have to go running back just because they get so many touches, especially if they're good hands out of the backfield. Anymore they have to, or they're just not playing them. I mean, back in the day, I had the Oilers hat on. You don't have the Earl Campbells of the era where they're running 30 times a game, and I mean, I don't think he ever had more than 400 or 500 yards receiving in a season ever. So he had very small catch percentage, but when you're running 30 times a game, you're not going to get many touches on passes. So I really like to go running back early. And I'm a feel guy. I joked with you before we started this. I got all these sheets and stuff of different things, and I will reference them when I draft, but I'm kind of a feel guy on that. And what's funny when you get after you do the draft, whether it's ESPN or Yahoo or whoever it is, they always do this rating of your draft, and it just it's
give you a grade.
Yeah, like last year I got graded, and my grade was like a C minus. I was just one of the worst drafts, and I came in second in the league. And second in the league. We'll
get to it later.
Second in the playoffs.
I don't think the draft's won or your league's not won in the draft. I'll say that. And I'll mention another strategy too, is what I like to do. I like pairing quarterbacks with running backs. So if I'm drafting Christian McCaffrey, I'm looking for Brock Purdy down the board.
Okay.
Because in my eyes, whatever, anytime San Francisco runs a play, barring, McCaffrey coming out, if they pass the ball, it could go to McCaffrey, double the points there. But Brock's getting points no matter what. They run the ball, McCaffrey's getting points. So in every offensive play, I'm pretty much getting points just because I have the quarterback, have the running back. And if, Brandon Ayuk is still a 49er, please come to Pittsburgh down the road. Maybe I'll even pair that. I like stacking teams. I think that's another one of my strategy. And then, of course, I try to get all the Steelers I can so I can have even more reason to cheer for them. So,
Yeah, so I don't have the same issue now with the Oilers. I can't root for the Texans. This is a sidebar. So I actually root for the Redskins, which I'll never call them what they're called now.
Yeah.
So they're the Washington Redskins as far as I'm concerned. Buddy of mine got over in Frankfurt. He's a preacher over there, and he's a big Redskins guy, and he grew up in Virginia. And he sent me a text last week of a ball signed by Darryl Green and Joe Gibbs.
Oh my goodness.
I'm like, oh, John, you're killing me. I mean, and it had somebody else on it that's like a 70s guy. I can't remember who it was, but it wasn't one of the Hogs or anything like that.
Right.
So, but yeah. So yeah, strategy for me, the pairing thing, I'll have to look at that because I've not stacked people like that before. Right. Occasionally, I think I probably have. But that's a pretty interesting strategy, I think. I think you have to have the right player like a McCaffrey, which I had him last year, and that's one that can be challenging just because of his injury history.
Right, and I think another strategy a lot of people follows the handcuff strategy. So for running backs, let's say I draft Tony Pollard, I'm going to go get who's their backup, Tajay Spears. They're the backup running back. So if a guy like that gets hurt, I have that replacement right away, and I know he's going to get first team snaps. So that's
Yeah,
always
and
a great
that's
strategy too.
smart. That's really
Yeah.
smart because with the McCaffrey or some of the guys in the past that have, I'm trying to think of the guy that was with the Giants. He would get hurt, and you were kind of stuck. It's always somebody like
Oh
that.
yeah.
You
It's
gotta
any
you gotta
guys with a
look
lot
at
of
the back.
target shares, they're going to get injured. It just is what it is.
It is, especially, yeah. I mean, these guys, I mean, the rules are much more, back in the 80s, you had Ronnie Lott. I mean, I think he probably would have been suspended a lot, for hits, and the Steelers. I mean, good
Come
grief.
on.
Geez, I'm telling you, Jack Lambert and some of those guys
I
were
mean, Joe
violent.
Green.
Mean Joe Green. Yep. Gosh. And they had some great teams. Terry
Steel
Bradshaw. I don't
curtain.
know how Terry Bradshaw can even put two sentences together now because he
Terry
got so
Bradshaw.
much.
Oh, Terry Bradshaw's threw 300 yards in a game twice in his career. Can you believe that?
Four Super Bowls.
He's got the rings. We got
You
guys.
know,
We'll have guys go over 300 yards in the first two games of the season. Game's
oh,
changed. The game has changed.
absolutely. You won't even know who they are. It's like, where did he play college football at? I mean, Boise State. I mean, I don't know. Bowling Green, which is in Ohio somewhere. What about mid-season or in-season stuff? Do you have anything that's kind of like, I'm a big waiver wire guy. I
Yep.
keep an eye on that. I say I don't spend a lot of time on it, but the one thing I look at the most is the waiver wire.
Right.
And kind of trends where these guys are kind of in the shadows and they're like playing well. And so, what about you? What's your thoughts on waiver wire?
Yeah, waiver wire, I would definitely recommend if you have like the ESPN app, CBS app, whatever you use for sports, turn on the notifications for injuries. I think those are the huge ones. Say, hey, a guy's got injured in practice. Who's their backup? Go look at a depth chart. Go see who's next in line. I think that's one of my big strategies. Obviously, injuries, and then like I said, just keep track of these teams. Who's, especially now before drafting, see these guys who's doing good in camp, who's having a standout camp. These rookies, especially, a guy like who's from Kentucky, Brennan Bates, showing out in Chicago. If he gets a roster spot, maybe that's a guy you look for in the waiver wire, especially at a thin tight end spot. So that's just my strategy. And then just guys who get hot. I mean, you see it's going to be early season. You see, especially with these young quarterbacks, who are they targeting early? It may not be the top guy. So those are my strategies: injuries, camp, see who's performing, all that. Go from there.
Yeah, yeah, I like it. I like it. I think we have a lot of similar traits on how we manage these things
Yep.
because that is something that because in a league, especially a family league, you already are going to know who's paying attention and
Yeah.
who's not.
It's cutthroat.
It is, and I don't care. I mean, I want to win. I
I
don't,
do too.
my kids, this mentality. So I'm 53. So my kids, I didn't let any of them win. They had to beat me, if it was playing basketball or anything like that.
Right.
There was no let them win to feel good. They needed to build a little toughness. And that's how so yeah, it's definitely cutthroat. So I will transitioning. So you have in season and then you're coming up on playoffs. This is where fantasy drives me crazy. It is the reason I stopped playing fantasy because I could manage the in season so well. And I don't
Right.
care if it were people I went to church with. I've done several years of that to the rando to the family. I kill it. I'm killing them. I'm killing them like 12-1, get into the playoffs. I'm just got such a good team that the first week I get just my guys are not even playing.
Yep.
You can't
Well, I
manage
mean,
that
it's
much
luck.
waiver stuff that quick.
Right. Right. I
So
mean, it's a lot of it's going to be luck. And especially like going down. Sorry to hear some dogs barking. I'm so sorry for that, by the way.
oh no,
But if you
you're
if you
good.
look down, especially with teams who are winning and resting players, especially towards the end of the season, you have a team in real life going, they're undefeated or one or two losses. They're not going to, and they have the division locked up or a playoff spot locked up. They're going to bench their guy. And unfortunately, they don't care who's on your fantasy team, which you think they would, you know?
I mean, why not? I mean,
So that's, I mean, it's hard. It's hard. But yeah, I think that's why the waiver wire is so important.
it
So
is.
important.
Yeah, and it's one of the reasons you just got to pay attention to it because it is the difference between a really good fantasy team and a not a good team at all.
Right.
And yeah, it's tough for sure. And I still struggle with it, and I know inherently these guys are not going to play, and I
Mhm.
still botch it. It's
Yep.
like so. I think that's a great segue into a topic I threw out to you when I threw over kind of the notes for this prepping up for this is
Mhm.
your epic fantasy story win, and then
Yeah.
I've got one I want to share too. So
Yeah. So it was like I got like just a group of my friends together. I was like, I want a second league. I'll have fun with it. So it was like all like my best friends, we got in a league. I mean, I'm dominating. And I get to the championship. Um, I'm playing like my best friend. Like I'm about to get married. He's one of my, groomsmen. Love this guy to death. Noticed since we're in third grade. Get to the championship game. I'm winning, or I'm losing, Sean, no joke, by like 0.02. With it, random decimal, less than 1 point. Before the Sunday, it was either Sunday, I think it was Monday Night Football. Vernon Davis, great tight end for 49ers.
yeah, remember him well.
I need a catch. I'm like, this is locked up. Get the trophy engraved. Dude runs a route first play, concussion, lose the game. Championship game, I needed one Vernon Davis catch, unfortunately, but he gets hurt. First play of the game. I can't make. Dude runs first route in my championship game. It was like a post, gets hit, doesn't catch the ball, comes out. He comes to the sideline. I'm like, oh, he'll come back in. News comes up. Vernon Davis out for the game. My phone's getting blown up. Vernon Davis, man. So I've had a vendetta against Vernon Davis my whole life.
Oh, man, that's your epic fail there for sure.
Epic fail. Epic win. Oh goodness. A really good one is RG3's rookie year. I started the league out 0-6. It's my church league, 0-6. And I changed my name to Mr. Clutch. And it ended up staying that for a long time. I was like, I'm gonna clutch up. It was when RG3 started breaking out like midway through for
Yeah,
Washington.
yeah.
A guy who, of course, dual threat guy. I think I had like Aaron Rodgers, somebody. He got hurt, so I put RG3 in. I win the next 8 games, make the playoffs, win the championship.
That's awesome. I
So
love it.
RG3 will always have a place in my heart because he carried my fantasy team his rookie year. I think he ended up throwing like 20 touchdowns, like 5 picks through like almost ran for 900 yards and just carried me to victory. So
That
RG3, I love you. You just got fired from ESPN, but I love you.
and Vernon Davis. What's funny? I just
Vernon
remember
Davis.
this. My wife had the exact same thing happen last season. She was in the playoffs and she lost by less than a half a point. And it was because one of her players got hurt in the game and he was done. And she ended up losing by half a point.
It's the
Half
worst
a
feeling.
point. It's
I'd rather get blown out than get beat by
oh,
less than a point.
yeah, beat me by 50. But don't beat me by half a point. I
And I'm
mean,
I'm texting my friend. I'm like, man, Vernon Davis is about to just finalize it, get my trophy ready, and then first play of the game, I'm like, Vernon Davis, man, are you kidding me? Big guy, great tight end. I mean, an
oh yeah.
incredible tight end, surefire. Guy's gonna catch it. Gets hurt first play, and
Oh
I'm sure if
man.
I tell that story to him today, he'll remember that very well.
Oh, I'm sure he will. I'm sure he
Yeah,
will for sure. Yeah, I would say so. My epic fail is continually losing in the playoffs after winning regular season. It's like an ongoing joke. That's one of the reasons my son, he'll give me crap about it. Because last year, she just crushed the league. I mean, she
Mhm.
lost once during the regular season. And
Wow.
then she played my deal and lost in the playoffs in the first game to that
Yeah.
with that stupid half a point thing. But that's probably my epic fail is just regularly blowing it in the playoffs.
Right. I
So
think a
you're gonna
lot of
love.
people will share that same sentiment. I think a lot of people will definitely sympathize with that.
Yeah, for sure. You're going to love this epic win, though. So I was playing in a random Yahoo league,
Mhm.
And I'd probably been playing for a few years. This was in 2003.
Okay.
And
2003. Wow.
2003. Okay. So I had Randy Moss on that team. And if you go back and look at Moss's fantasy numbers for that year, which I've got them here, let's see,
Was he? Wait, was he on
2003,
the Pats then?
he was on the Vikings
Oh,
still.
he's still on the Vikings. Okay.
He had 265 fantasy points that year in 16 games. It was like
That's crazy.
one of the best fantasy seasons of all time. So I'm rolling along, and I don't know any of these guys. They're like rando. I thought I'll just join. I don't know anybody's playing this year. I'm going to join a Yahoo League. And so Marshall Falk got hurt in that season, and he was usually really durable.
Mhm.
And he only played 11 games that year, but he got hurt, and I proposed a trade, and I forget who I traded. I traded two or three players for him, and he wouldn't be able to even play. It was kind of a gamble. I'm like, if this plays out, I'm going to kill this league, and it won't even be close. And so I traded for him, and he comes back in he came back in week 10, and he just closed it out. I mean, he had 17, 12, 19, 32, 14,
Mm.
15. I mean, he was just killing it, 27 and 21 in the final game. And so I landed that trade. So I had Marshall Falk and Randy Moss in my starting lineup for the last like 6 games. I blew that whole league out. I finished, I think it was either with one loss or two losses, and just ran away with the league. But that was my favorite
Yeah.
epic win for sure.
Just casually having two Hall of Famers on your team.
Yeah, and it was one of those things that, the guy, what was funny is there wasn't even like an alternate trade. Like, no, I won't take this, but I'll give you this. He's just like, yeah, okay. He's hurt. He's on the bench. I'm like, okay.
Sure. I don't know the guy.
Right. I don't know him. It would have been
Yeah.
even better if it had been in a family league, if I could pull it.
100%. Yep. When you
That'll
fleece a trade, it feels so good.
definitely be the win for sure on that one. And there was one other one I was going to share with you, but I can't remember what it was. Should have written it down. Epic fail, no, but yeah, those are two of my favorite stories for sure. And oh, I know what it was. So, side note on fantasy football, when I was back in like 5th grade, we had like newspapers. Okay, this is pre-internet. So
Mhm.
you get the Sunday paper, in this case,
Yep.
Monday paper, because they had all football scores on Monday. So I had some friends at school that we would do this thing with points. It wasn't even fantasy football didn't exist then. It didn't have any of this stuff.
Right.
So we pick our teams, and then I would be in charge of doing it because I love statistics and math and all that stuff. So I would, however many touchdowns Earl Campbell have you, times 7 or 6 rather, and this would be your points. So it was kind of before fantasy
Did
football.
you invent fantasy football, Sean?
Don't tell him.
That's what I thought. That's what I
Yeah,
thought.
that's right.
They should give you a cut every year.
That's right. Yeah, it's like, where's my cut? My son laughs at me when I tell that story, but yeah, but you know, that was pretty fun back then. And I've got, and these, all these charts and stuff here. I go through all those notes, but at the end of the day, I enjoy it. It's a lot of fun. I'm
It is
glad I'm
fun.
back doing it again. It's a good time. We've got our draft coming up on Sunday, I think.
Coming close. Coming close. Another draft strategy. If you're managing a league, do it later in the preseason. Don't do it before preseason. Injuries happen. Wait. Wait a little bit, then draft.
Oh yeah, no doubt. And this one actually
Yeah.
worked out just because of what we've got some family things going on as far as people couldn't be there, and so
Mhm.
we're going to end up doing it. I think we did it over Zoom last year or
It's
FaceTime.
fun. It's fun. It's fun because when you draft somebody, like a guy was waiting or somebody was waiting for you to draft, they were about to draft somebody, you take them right before. It's the best feeling. Love it.
Yeah, you're going to love this epic fail,
Okay.
friend. I got to share this because this is the greatest story in the history of fantasy drafts. It was a church league, and these people are hyper competitive,
Mhm.
especially Angela. She's one of our friends in Lawrenceburg. She's so competitive. I mean, she's got her notes and she's at work. She takes a break to do the draft, so she's at work. Greg, he's doing it. He's on auto draft. He's an attorney. He's like, whatever you get,
Mhm.
I get whoever I get. And I happened to be at home that day. So I was able to do it, as we were going through it. And Angela's picking third, I think, second or third that year overall draft. And she picks Adrian Peterson. And of course, we know stud AP. I mean, like fantasy Hall of Famer for sure.
Yeah.
Like first ballot at fantasy Hall of Famer. And the draft gets selected, and I look at it. I look at the draft, and once you do it once you do it like that, it's in stone. There's no
Yep.
changing. I
Nothing.
look at it, Fred, and I'm not kidding. It said Adrian Peterson dash CHI. There were two Adrian Petersons in the
Oh
NFL.
no. There was an Adrian Peterson in Chicago.
There was, look it up. She
No kidding.
drafted Adrian Peterson from the Chicago Bears. And once she did it and she realized immediately when it flashed up on the screen, who was on her team. And there was nothing we could do. It was an auto draft with ESPN or what.
Well, she probably like searched his name and it was probably the first Adrian Peterson because of Chicago instead of Minnesota. Oh, bless her heart.
Yeah. Oh, she was tore up and she's so competitive and she lost the league. I mean,
Yeah.
when you blow that pick, you're screwed. I mean,
It was
that's
probably the
another
year he ran for 2,000 yards to broke all those records.
huge year. Yeah, he had a big year.
Gosh.
And when you blow, that's another fantasy like tip is you've got to be like solid on that first couple of picks. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, you can get
Lock 'em
away,
down.
like you said, with quarterback. I love your strategy with quarterback.
Yep.
I mean, you can get a guy in the eighth, ninth, way beyond. You can get in the double digits, and you're
Yeah.
going to be fine. I mean,
You're
you're going to
fine.
get a guy like a Philip Rogers or like you said, the guy that's down in Atlanta now. That I mean, there's always somebody like that you can
Yeah.
pick up. And Eli Manning. I mean,
Right. Just get the job done. Get the job done. You'll be fine. So I'm actually in a 2 quarterback league. So that one's tricky. Very
Okay,
tricky
so
league.
talk about that with me because I've not done that one before. I've seen them. My son was in one.
So you start 2 quarterbacks. You want to have them separate bye weeks. You want to have one backup. There's 12 teams. Everybody 2 quarterbacks and one back quarterback. There's only 32 teams.
Right,
Not
right.
everybody has a backup. So, and it's a keeper league too. So you get to keep 2 players going into the draft. So if you keep 2, then you don't have your first or second round pick, which is fine with me. So I kept Jalen Hurts this year to have my quarterback. And then so strategy, obviously, you want to get a backup. And if you can't get a starter who's a backup, if I have Jalen Hurts, if I don't draft the backup in time after my second quarterback drafted, I'm gonna go get one of their back. Let's say if I draft, I don't know, Russell Wilson, I want to go get Justin Fields. Or if I have Jalen Hurts, I'm probably going to go draft Kenny Pickett. Shouts out, ex-Steeler. But so that's my strategy for 2 quarterback. I'm not a big fan of 2 quarterback leagues, but I play along, have fun with it. It's just hard to find a backup. And there's been weeks or in years I didn't have a backup. Just rolled out there hoping somebody got hurt and threw a backup in there.
You almost have to do that. My son was in
Yeah.
one. I don't know. I've got to ask him if his work did that. He's got a group at work of buddies that they do one, and he's got 3. He's got ours, a church league, and then one at work. And he would always ask me about the 2 quarterback thing. It's like, I mean, I don't have any experience with that.
Right.
I would almost rather have, 4 wideouts or 3 running backs or anything besides 2 quarterbacks.
Well, bye weeks are a huge thing you have to worry about. Speed of strategy. I mean, you got to make sure your bye weeks are taken care of. You got to have the backups, make sure they don't have the same bye week. There's a lot goes into it. I mean, it's leading up to draft. You got to look at a lot of stuff.
Big business for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's just massive. And, then you have DraftKings. Have you ever done the DraftKings thing or any of those with fantasy?
I have not. Like I said, a couple. I think 2 of my 3 leagues. One's for a trophy, and then one's a buy-in. So we'll have a pot. First place gets a certain amount of money. Second place. So, but no, I've never done like the DraftKings stuff. But
yeah, I dabbled with it one year just for kicks and just putting just like $5 in there and
right.
playing around with it. But it seems Yeah, it's not something I think I can see where that could get pretty addictive pretty quick,
Yeah.
on that. It's like, yeah, I think I'll pass on that,
Hmm.
for sure. But yeah, man, it's been fun talking to you about this.
I love it.
I got to see your draft when you draft. I want to see,
I
send
will.
me.
I'll show you all three of them.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I want to see who you draft. I really don't know who I'm going to go with right now. There's so many, I got to go through my notes and get ready for this thing on Sunday. And
Hmm.
this is good prep for that for sure, as far as that goes. But man, thanks for being on today.
Of
I
course. Of
appreciate that.
course.
And I'm going to,
Anytime.
I'm gonna definitely put this over on YouTube and put it out there. But I love talking sports, and it's a nice distraction from the work and all that
Yeah.
fun stuff. But
I know I was looking forward to it all day. I made sure I stayed focused on work, but I'm not gonna lie to you. I was waiting for this podcast.
yeah, for sure, I'll put it on my Wix website.
Please do, please do. Yeah, anytime, Sean. Anytime. Anytime you want to talk sports, I'm passionate about it, so I can do it all day.
Yeah, absolutely, Fred. Hey, thanks for being on. Have
Of
a great
course.
evening, and I'll talk to you later.
See you later.
See ya.